Should be four different funds represented in your packet for budget amendments. Let me know when everybody's there. We can start with 141. That is the first one in your packet. I'll just kind of go through the list here as we go through. There's nothing on page 1. I've only printed off the pages that we had changes in. So there's nothing on page 1. Page 2, we did receive additional FRC money this particular month for Cindy Purdy and her grant. Some revenue in that on page 3. Page 4, we're still dealing with the insurance claim from the storms. I believe that was December or January-ish. I can't remember. But I am adding $13,000 more to that. That's based on the claim that we filed. So that's just money that insurance has provided for us that we're expensing out to fix the issues that were caused through that storm. Okay, so there'll be additional, Brian's telling me there will be additional money on top of that will be received before the end of the year. Those two items are the only thing that's changing in our revenue is the FRC, $300, and then $13,000 for insurance. Any questions on revenue? Okay, we'll start with the expenses on page 5. This is our regular education function where we pay our teachers and things of that nature. As you know, we put contingency money into our teacher line and our assistant line. 100,000 extra in our teacher line and then 40 extra in our assistant line in an event that we have to hire additional teachers throughout the year. I'm removing the majority of that on page 5 for legal services. We do have to increase our legal services line. That's something that I'll get to in a couple more pages, and we can talk further about it. But I am taking it from the teacher line and assistant line, which there are contingency monies that have already been approved in our approved budget to take from there. Those were not hired this year, so the extra is available. Also on page 5 is the Read to Be Ready summer grant. Made some changes there, and that's just based on what the state has approved for us. Page 6, the schools. This is the last month for the schools and the opportunity they have to move money within their 4 lines, which is supplies, equipment, PD, and library funds. So that's what they're doing on page 6 is moving their funds around. That way they can be expended and use those properly before the end of the year. Page 7 is special ed budget. They are increasing their supplies and equipment in their budget, moving money from homebound teachers, which there are a lot of special ed students that have graduated in December, so we do have extra money there that we're moving down. And then we'll see in their second budget coming up in several pages where they're moving the rest of it from. But they are increasing their supplies and equipment, all within the amount that was approved in the initial budget. Again, this don't go in order, so we're jumping to page 11. That's the next page that has any kind of changes, and this is the library funds and PD funds for the schools. This is also the schools, again, just changing their funds around to expend it between now and the end of the school year. Page 12 is the other half of the special ed budget. So this is where they're moving the funds from, which is their contracted service and travel lines. So they are moving those again to supplies and equipment. Page 15, this is the legal services line. We currently have $30,000 budgeted for legal services. We're increasing that by $100,000. What this will do between now and the end of the year, it'll pay for all the invoicing that's currently out there, and it'll also leave approximately $36,000 between now and June 30th. So whether that'll be enough or not, I don't know, but that's the amount that I feel comfortable increasing it to right now. If you guys think it should be more or less, you can let me know. But right now, the year to date is about 94,000 in this line, so we've got to at least get it to 94,000. The extra would be what I feel is needed between now and the end of the school year. You guys have any questions on that? Okay, page 19 is just simply the expenses from the storm damage. We're putting that in a maintenance budget, which is cost centered for insurance. Page 20 is our community services. There were some after-school amendments with our grants, just moving those around again so we can expend it through the remainder of the year. And also our FRC funding, where we got extra money for our grant for PD, is on page 20. Page 21, pre-K, there are some changes made to pre-K budget to cover subs between now and the end of the year. Again, that's just working within the budget that they were given at the first of this year. Page 22 is the final page for 141, and it just shows the amount of revenue we're adding versus the expenses. And there's no effect on the fund balance, so the fund balance will remain the same in 141 based on these amendments. Any questions about 141? Okay.
On our, on the legal fees?
Yes.
With the current legal firm we have, do we pay them a retainer?
No, you're not.
We just pay them when we use them?
Yes. I think that's an option if you want to do that for next year. All law firms have the ability to have a set amount that you pay them every single month, but that'd be the decision of the board.
After a meeting we had a month or so ago, when the representative from our law firm was there, I got into a discussion with him about where our budget was this year and our expenses. He brought that up, the idea of taking an average of our legal expenses over, say, the last 5-year period, and then averaging those, and then charge us a monthly rate on that, so it would become a fixed amount. Then, so if we had a year that bloomed up, we would cover it. But if we had a low year, it would balance it out. So it would make it a little easier for us to budget. Probably wouldn't change the overall expenditure over the course of time, but it might be easier for us to budget in a specific year.
Are we contracted to them? Are we bound to that firm? Is there like a contract that says we have to?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the place we want to talk about down the road or down the agenda, but I think that I'd like to see us go and talk to some of the local attorneys that we have here in town and in Loudon County. You know, there's a lot of young attorneys out there that are willing to learn and school law and stuff like that, and you know, I think it may benefit us greatly to have one sitting right there to tell us when we're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. You and Bobby can answer that history better than I can, Scotty. I don't know how we got this law firm. It predates me.
Chuck Cagle.
Chuck Cagle, yeah.
The school law is a pretty specialized area, though. I would not want to work just with a local attorney and teach him about it in the process.
Well, most of the attorneys are you know, scholars, and they're going to go in there and study the law, know what they're doing. I mean, you got to have one that's competent. So,
Go ahead, Jim.
All right, that's it for 141. 142 is amendment in Title III for ILP training. We're just increasing the salary lines there for ILP training. That's already been approved by the state. So I'm just reflecting what the state has already approved in your budget there for 142. That is the only 142 amendment we have. 143 is our cafeteria fund. We are moving funds from equipment into professional development, and that's our summer feeding program. So that would be for professional development for the cafeteria employees between now and the end of the year.
Those pages are that number. That's that $2,500 amount.
Yes, it is. Correct.
I don't want to say Terrell, that out North Middle when we did our retreat, are they doing those pieces everywhere, or is that just a test?
That's only at North Middle.
Only at North?
Yes.
For right now. And she'd like to expand it at some point in time in the future. She felt like it's a good pilot to see if it's going to be successful. And I think that she wants to make sure that it's a big enough school in order to be able to host something like that. I would
Yeah, like
anticipate.
10 times better. Sorry to be
anticipate that she will maybe go down high school next, and then kind of consider, what other schools we have in line that would be big enough to sustain.
Okay.
That's kind of what she said when we had that, when we were debating on going with the outside service on the cafeteria, she was gonna start adding that stuff.
Yeah, she did.
Kids-
No, that was good, that was
Yeah,
good.
it is.
Yeah.
Bobby, will be there.
The last one we have is 177, and this is our AFT funds. In order to complete and just to finish out the financing for the North Middle School, we are moving money into the engineer services, and that's just to cover the final invoices for COPE. I think some reimbursables came through that we have extra in contracted services, so that's something that Ms. Blair wanted us to do in order to wrap everything up with our North Middle School project.
Jay, now that you've added 177 to it, well, 156, which is our debt retirement account, I think we need to take a look at that occasionally and get an update on that. The commission, it's the commission's budget, and that sits out of theirs, but it's really our money
Correct.
that they're dealing with. And they've been making some changes in that I'm not sure benefit us very much. And I would like to be able to monitor that, and if you could add that to the packet, not necessarily every month, but at least on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
Or an annual basis.
And to give you a little bit more information on AFT, as of July 1st of this fiscal year, we had 2.5 million in fund balance for that particular fund. And we will expense out about 600,000 this year so far with the North Middle. And that leaves about 1.9 million, not counting the revenue that will come in, but they typically budget about 500,000 out of AFT. Each year coming in revenue. So you're looking at about 2.5 million in AFT for upkeep of the schools. And that's the purpose of 177.
Brian, is there anything that you're all doing on, because that one year we put a list of stuff together, is there anything gonna come out of that, look to come out of that with maintenance?
One of the biggest things to be coming up real soon will be the warranty renewal for the roof at Loudon High School. And we'll have to redo that roof. If we stay with the foam, and then if we change it, it's gonna cost us.
You say the warranty.
Yeah, there's a 10-year warranty that has to be renewed on those foams.
Does that mean you have to do something to it to renew it?
They have to come in and recoat it.
Okay. Forgive my ignorance here.
Yeah, they come in and actually just shape it down, add some foam back on top, put the urethane coating on, and then that gives us another 10 years on that.
Well, we look at something different.
Well, it'll be a considerable amount over what it would cost to renew that warranty. We came out pretty lucky this year with insurance claims on Eaton and North Middle School.
Is that the way to go? I didn't know that.
No, that saved us about $800,000 right there, just off insurance claims.
So is it the way to go to shave the roof and do it that way?
Well, it's probably the simplest way to go.
May not be the best, but it's the most
Well,
cost
that's
effective.
the most cost effective this time, yes. Sorry.
Jason, are we looking to put something together though?
We have hesitated to put anything together until we get past our budget, and then I think that Brian and I need to get a proposal that they have taken, you guys. And really, with North and Eaton being out of the way in regard to the roofs, I think we've got a great opportunity to move forward with a lot of our wish lists.
Any other question on the budget amendments for Chad? Very good. Scott, I believe you have a
Yes, this is Mr. Rick Hill. I'll let him introduce himself. He's a mutual friend of ours. He and I have a mutual friend. He'll tell you what he's doing.
Again, good evening. My name is Ricky Hill. I'm a retired FBI agent, and I have a business in the area here, the Tri-County area, A&A Investigation and Consulting Group. I was introduced to Scott, and it blessed me with the opportunity to come speak to you guys as a group, kind of tell you what I do and how I hope to assist the community and better provide security. Now, again, I said, my name is Rick Hill. I'm an FBI agent, retired FBI agent, 25 years in the Bureau. I concluded my career in Washington, D.C. I managed the FBI's counterterrorism program. In my last year and a half, I was the rep FBI over at CIA counterterrorism. And I only say that to say that the perspective I bring to what we are going to be talking about is just to kind of give you an idea of where we're coming from in that sense. This is my second time in Knoxville. I originally ran the, in Knoxville area, originally ran the FBI intelligence program and drug program for a while, and then I went back to DC when we retired and came back down here. So to speak. But what I wanted to talk to you about this evening is a risk assessment, threat assessments. You have a card in front of you to talk about active shooter, which is the focus of what the risk assessment is going to be about. But you know, as we listen to our most precious gifts, the young folks talk about what they have accomplished and the great accomplishments they've had in competition here recently. But we want to protect them. And our teachers, along with them, is on the front line in our school systems trying to protect. You know, we can look throughout the country at some of the events that have occurred over the years, from Sandy Hook to Parkland to Texas, and all those places whereby someone, and I call it evil, walk into a school and start to kill and create victims in our school systems. But, you know, what I want us to do is start to be more proactive in putting up security measures to protect our students, protect our teachers, and protect our school environment. You know, in Parkland, one of the main issues, it was an open school, and it gave an open area for that individual to do what he did. Not saying we need to rebuild all of our schools, but we can look at our school, and that's why I come in and assist the system to look at where the risks are, where the gaps are, where the vulnerabilities are, and come up with measures, most economically effective measures to protect against those gaps. And most of us, if not all of us, have had some sort of active shooter training with law enforcement. This is what I did in law enforcement. I had that opportunity to, with law enforcement, come in and go hide, run, and fight, or either lockdown. And that's what we do in our school system. You know, I teach a criminal justice class for high schools out at Palo City in Strawberry Plains, and I've seen some and observed some of their lockdown procedures, and there's some improvement that's to be done to those processes. So what I would like to do is take a look at how our school systems are set up, what are some of the gaps and vulnerabilities are, and how we can come in and improve that and better protect our students, and help and assist the teachers and administration in doing that. For example, my approach is being proactive. Our focus in most of the time is the event itself. Something is happening. We either hide, run, and fight, or we lock down the school system. The law enforcement agency come, the cavalry come, and try to find the threat and eliminate the threat and keep everyone safe. Understanding that when law enforcement shows up, their role is not to save and protect the victims, they're to find that threat and eliminate that threat. That's their primary role. So, and the other part of it is, most events throughout the United States last for about 7 minutes. Most responses is about 7 to 14 minutes. So in most cases, the event is over. So we need to have a plan in policies and procedures to protect our students before the event ever occurs. So what I want us to start to think about is looking at, first and foremost, prevention, protection, then response, which is the hide, run, and fight, and then on the back end of that, what I call business continuity. You know, when Parkland occurred, that school system was down for legitimate reasons for over a week, and some schools have been out even longer. But what do you do with those students in the meantime? Is there a place they can go and continue their education and start, because you want to start to integrate them back into the system as fast as possible to bring some normalcy about it. But we know it's not going to be normal again. So the other part of it is recovery. You know, do we have a plan in place in our systems to provide them with the counseling they would need, either internal, you know, money is tight, or is there a place we can direct them to throughout the community, churches or wherever, that they can get that counseling, not only them, their family members, the teachers, because everybody at some point has got to go back to that school, the community itself got to recover, and we got to get back to some form of normalcy. So again, what I do, I come in, I take a look at what you do, where you are, and try and conduct that assessment, do a policy review. If you have policies and plans in place, we have a plan for fire drills, we do those. But is that plan including your active shooter your deadly events, if you will. And then I'll help you write the policies. If you don't have an emergency plan in place, or if it needs to be improved upon, we'll come in and help you write that policy, and then help you implement that policy, and then provide the training. We could try to coordinate with local law enforcement or the regional law enforcement to come in and actually, if time permits and the area permits, to do an active operation so they can see exactly what will occur if someone should happen to cause an incident at your schools. And again, I'm Ricky Hill, and that's what we do, and that's what I wanted to speak to you about this evening. And again, any way I can help.
You made a comment a moment ago about coordinating with local law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
I guess my question is, what services should local law enforcement be providing us? And how is what you do unique or different from what they might provide for us?
What local law enforcement will do, and they do, is they're gonna come in, they're gonna talk to you about how to run and fight, and they're gonna talk to you about locking down the system. And in your school, you probably have a resource officer at some of your schools, not all your schools. And their role is to provide and participate in that type of training. But what the uniqueness we bring in, we come in, we help, we look at your vulnerabilities, where your gaps are. You know, are you leaving doors open and they shouldn't be unlocked? Are you locking your school down on those outer perimeters during school hours? Is there a choke point, one single entry point when school began? Just some of the things that we look. Do you have a surveillance system? You know, I would not recommend a particular company, but do you need a surveillance system in your school so they can monitor that? Is it being monitored in the right place? You know, a lot of times schools and businesses have a surveillance system, but it's somewhere in a room and nobody's looking at it. You know, how are you? And the other thing I want schools to sort of think about in the district is, say, for example, like in Parkland, that student was suspended. A year later, he went back to that same school that he was suspended from and started shooting. Do we have plans in place to monitor our student activities and share that information throughout the district? So if you suspend a student from one school for doing something and they show up at another school, is there a mechanism in place to ensure that that other school district, we know that this student had issues at another school?
Real quickly, we're very fortunate. We have a deputy in every one of our we actually have a sheriff back there in the back. He stepped up and put a deputy in every one of our schools for us a couple of years ago. What I'm getting at, I think they have most of their SROs, I'm not going to speak for them, but they have all got plans for their buildings in place. So what I would see them doing is coming in, and because, you know, and from a law enforcement standpoint, it's always best to have 2 or 3 different ways of how somebody does something. And you know, it's not the way, it's a way.
Yes.
We just went through an active shooter class that the sheriff's department just helped put on with us. And then I think was it last year they done one at the high school? This year. And so, your company could come in and basically assist them if that's something we wanted to do. But they come back and say, okay, here's our MOU, and then go back and look at it.
Go back and take a deep dive look at it and ensure that you're hitting the points you need to hit. Where are your gaps? You know, what is surveillance? You know, coordinate with the sheriff, of course, and the RSOs to see how they're doing their job and how they're coordinating with administration.
Commissioner Beers, you have a question, sir?
Yes, sir. I have the pleasure of serving on the 911 board, and Sheriff Guider is our chairman.
Yes.
And last week, we have been talking bits and pieces about things like this.
Yes.
And what we want to do, we need, as you say, work together. I talked to Sheriff Guider, I talked to the 911 coordinator. We'd like to invite the board to go up and take a look at the 911 center. The idea of talking to Sheriff Guider came up from what they were trying to do in Knoxville, I think with about 5 or 6 schools, about maybe a month or 6 weeks ago, of getting into the school. And when I had the opportunity of talking with Sheriff Guider, what we were doing specifically is like this, is that if we can have our cameras, the only way, if I'm correct now, and Sheriff Guider can help me or someone else, the only way, if we have a problem of viewing, the school has to contact the 911 center. But if we can find a way of adapting this and having, if we have surveillance, if we have a problem, and heaven forbid that this ever happens in this county, but if we can work together with the board and the sheriff's department and all concerned, the 911 center has this capability, and I think it would truly provide security through the SROs, the sheriff's office, and the other agencies in the county for the protection of the staff, the students, in case anything were to happen. And it was very odd, but I guess it was probably last Monday or Tuesday, something like that, Sheriff Goddard, we talked, and we had a good conversation. And, you know, he was open. He said, what can we do? And talking with Ms. Estes, talking with her, you know, you need to know what's going on up there. We have a resource that's very available, and I think if we can put our heads together on something like this, it will truly, what you're talking about here, will provide additional security and make parents even more so safe about their children at school. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you had mentioned about your legal fees and all that, so one of the things that you need to start to consider as you work along with them, do you have processes in place to share information throughout your district if there's a problem student? I mean, I know privacy issues can be a hindrance in that sometimes, but you know, you need a process in place. If you have to call the sheriff out to remove a student, how can you share that information throughout the district so to know if that student shows up somewhere else? And we help you walk through that process.
You work on a flat fee, or is it an hourly basis, or it depends on is it the size of the project? How are you?
It is the size of the project. I'll work with you. That's what I try to do. It's kind of a passion of mine, but I don't try to fleece you.
Knoxville sure beats DC, doesn't it?
A whole lot. Night and day.
Any other questions for Mr. Hill? Thank you, sir.
And again, thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
With that, on to item 4, item 6, draft board meeting minutes. Mr. Director.
Mr. Chairman, board members, you guys asked us to go back and look at our minutes. Kayla went back and added some verbiage that you guys requested her to. She also contacted legal counsel and took out some things that we had stated, in essence, that I had stated specifically. So in essence, narrowed down my scope very, very strongly and incorporated a couple other words, and they believe what we currently have in place in front of you is appropriate to move forward.
So these are the revised ones.
That's correct.
One of the things on March 22nd that kind of stand out to me, as I flipped through these just a few seconds ago, if I go back like to March 5th, it kind of recognizes what Chairman Simon says, what Bobby Johnson says, what Scotty says. It kind of goes through those pieces. But when I go to March 22nd, one of the things that I don't see on that piece is that when it's opened up, there's a discussion in reference to after Will speaks, and there's a discussion in which the board chairman makes a comment that about the fees and the amount they are, and he also makes a comment in the same, I guess, not really breath, but in the same sentence, that that between that discussion, the attorney and I guess Mr. Simon, as they were discussing the fee, that it was established that there was no cause, and I would like the minutes to reflect that.
Can you help us one more time, make sure we hear exactly what you would like for it to reflect?
I would just like for it to reflect in reference when Mr. Simon is speaking about the fees and what the fee was, I guess, at the point when you were talking about 60,000.
Yeah, it was, between 60 and 70,000, just generally speaking. I didn't have exact numbers, but yes.
So somewhere in there, and then in that same breath, that he's speaking, he references that during that discussion, that communication, I think was the word he uses, that, he and Chris established that there was no cause. I would like for the minutes to reflect.
Well, it didn't say that we established it. I was asking him questions based on the additional questions that were given to him from the board, and his thoughts were in that direction. He didn't come out and say it.
I just want that to be, I mean, if I go back, you go back and view the video of that, it's stated, and I would just like for that to be reflected.
I can look at this, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges.
Pat, did you get your, I think you had an issue with one of these in there, right? Did you get a chance to look at this?
I haven't, but I'll look at it this weekend.
Okay. Any other questions on this? I didn't mean to call you out there, but I knew you had an issue, and I wanted to make sure we got it over.
That's okay.
Any other questions with that? All right, on to number 5 or 7, I'm going to look here, Jennifer Rossi's request. Is Jennifer here?
She is not here. She is actually at a Loudon High School track meet or a baseball game or some other event at Loudon High School. She is a player for Loudon High School. She attends almost all of our athletic events that she's humanly possibly able to attend. She has got a few children that she would like to request have the opportunity to attend Loudon County schools. She's got a 4th grader, a 7th grader, and a 9th grader. Ms. Rossi currently lives in Loudon County and would love to have the opportunity to come to Loudon County schools with her children because she is typically here. More times, obviously, she's not here as much because we don't have any games during the school day, but she is here most often in the afternoons, especially in the springtime. So I told her I would bring that request to the board. If you want to honor that request to move forward with, we'll need to put on the agenda for next week. And if not, then I'll tell her that she needs to appear.
But she's not an employee.
We do not pay her. She is I can say, she's here more than many of our employees, though, as an athletic trainer. I don't know what
Dr. Upton, she does all of our training for football, basketball, she's there. And she actually come to me and talked about, we had to go from the board, but I think she's homeschooled her kids till now, or homeschooled 1 or 2 of them. And then she wants to bring, because what happens with her is that she's so ingrained in Loudon. She went to Kingston once and didn't like it, go back and love Loudon. So anyway, but she's so ingrained in Loudon, she's here, she's here 6 or 7 o'clock in the afternoon every time. It'd just be a benefit for her to have her kids enrolled here. And it goes back, we do have a couple of people that are not in school employees, but county employees, we've allowed this to happen.
But she's not a county employee, right?
And she doesn't have.
She works for like KLC or something.
Yeah, she worked for KLC.
I don't have a question, but I'll speak up in reference to Jen. I do athletics, all the bus things. She's ridden my bus just like an employee does, back and forth. She loves Loudon. She wants to be a part of Loudon. I can't see her being denied, but she puts her heart and soul in Loudon County and her kids. She treats them just like them her kids. I can say that. She's a great family. I know the family personally, and I think it'll be a great addition to the county for those kids to be here.
Unless we were,
If she leaves,
like, have contract.
we have a contract.
Could we make her out, put her on a contract?
Yes. I think everybody's out of county.
Dollar a year,
so we let our employees do it, and these trainers, they're, it's easy.
We can make it work.
Well, I know, she's not on the payroll. I consider her to be just like one of our employees, though. She's here more often.
But I think because of our policy, we need to find a way of putting her on our payroll as an employee, even if it's just a very small amount.
You don't do that.
Justify it,
We have to go back to the policy.
I think we can vote to either let her come or not come.
I think she comes, there's gotta be a contract.
Right.
TSB policy recommendations, Mr. Director.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we spoke at the board workshop planning session about our new policies recommended by TSBA, the tobacco-free schools, 1.03. The new verbiage is more in line with state rules and regulations as compared to the old one. It does not have lines 8 through number 11, which specifically talk about citation. That is state law that we do that, so you don't necessarily need that in there. So in my opinion, that's appropriate to move forward with 1.03. 4.2 allow alternative credits. We had made this 2014. The verbiage speaks more specifically about online opportunities that kids now have. The one thing that I would encourage us to do is incorporate at the bottom of page 1, line number 29. It says in certain number of days that parents would have an opportunity to appeal to the board if they were denied an opportunity from our office. And to me, 5 days makes sense. We have 5-day appeal windows for other disciplinary actions and things of that nature. So to me, we'd just be consistent in doing that. Other than that, I think it's a decent policy that represents what our needs are.
You're saying add a line there?
No. Right here at the bottom of the new policy.
Oh.
That we would simply say that we would add 5 days. Other than that, I think it's a really straightforward, easy policy. I don't think there's anything big about that one. No, that's my bad. I'm going quickly. 4.603, promotion and retention. We've got a decent policy in place. New verbiage, I think, is significantly more in line with state statute in regard to requiring schools to inform parents about decision-making in relation to retention. It speaks about having a good RTI squared policy in regard to the screening and monitoring tools that we already do. I think that it speaks very specifically about how to work through the retention process. If you retain a kid, they've got to be in a high-level teacher's classroom the next year, so I've got no issue at all with that. I think it's a really good program, and certainly believe it's something we can improve and move forward to next week's meeting.
I think I asked you the question before about retentions. Do you have any numbers? How often do we use them, and what grade levels currently?
Maria Warren and I spoke very specifically about that after you asked the question. She's got a chart of all those retention numbers and what it looks like in regard to how those kids have progressed over the last several years. And very minimal past kindergarten to first grade. Very rare to see us retain a kid in 2nd through 12th grade. It does happen occasionally for various reasons, but she's got all that information. And I'll make sure to get that to you.
I'd like to see a copy of that before our meeting next week.
I'll make sure to get that to you. And Chairman Thomas pointed out, always in the best interest of kids. And, that policy outlines that. And certainly something that we take into consideration. But I'll bring that information to you, Dr. Oven. 4.201 basic curriculum program. The last time we updated this one was in 2000, so it's obviously a need for some updated verbiage, very specific, or very broad rather, in regard to the way the board has an opportunity to move forward with the curriculum, making sure we're staying within state laws and guidelines, and then allows the board the opportunity obviously to add courses or content that we would feel appropriate in future need, in the future as we see fit. So,
how is it modified from the old policy? I can't follow this quickly.
So the old policy had a couple of things in it that I'm not sure that we currently do. It talked about highway safety and defensive driving, a few other things that I'm not 100% sure are in line with the updated verbiage. It didn't speak very specifically about class sizes and things of that nature, things that we're going to do and follow state law regardless, but it just outlines very specifically our school policy.
Okay,
and that's all I've got on policies, Mr. Chair.
Any questions on the TSB policy recommendation? On the North Middle Fine Arts building pay application.
So Chad introduced a budget amendment from 177 to move some money to pay Cope out, and Cope is finished with that at this point in time. I think the only thing we lack in regard to North Middle School is the Evans and Ailey's retainage. That should be coming sometime within the next month or so, and so we should be completely finished that building once we get the retainage request.
Are we looking good on that?
All good.
Any other questions on that pay item? Rate budget amendments. Did those, the 9 textbook,
We have a textbook committee that we comprise of school teachers across our curriculum, and elementary teachers all teachers get together and look at what textbook opportunities they have. In the past, we blanketly adopted all textbooks and just chose which ones we loved the most later on. And the state was really forceful and encouraging us to adopt a single textbook per subject area, and so elementary chose Gallup-8, middle school chose McGraw-Hill, high school chose McGraw-Hill, CTE had Cengage, Gilhart Wilcox, and Ramsey Education. So all that information is included in your packet, and something that I would encourage us to approve next week so we can submit to state compliance.
So where the red check mark is what?
The book
They took.
author, yes, the company they chose to go with.
Okay.
This is crazy. I mean,
So you say we're kind of adopting the whole list, really, is what we're doing, but then how are we making the choices later? How is that being done?
Well, we're making a choice right now. In elementary, they just, in essence, went with Gallup-8, and in middle school, we went with McGraw-Hill, in essence. But you gotta choose one for each, subject.
So does it still, there's a question here for an amateur, do these still come with the internet portion too?
When we buy a textbook, they will typically come with an internet subscription. And now, this is not to buy textbooks, this is just to adopt. Purchasing a textbook is a different process in itself altogether, but the State Department makes you adopt textbooks that are aligned with state curriculum. And if you're not, then you've got to submit a different appeal and, give a big long reason about why that's appropriate for your school system, that sort of thing.
If you select something that's not on the list,
That's
as long as you select something on the list, we're free to do that.
Because they believe that all these are state standard law.
To me, does not seem to be a very easy task, I would not want to do that.
I tell you, our teachers do a good job working through this process and part of the work they put into it.
Any question on the textbook adoption? Overnight field trips. Mr. Director.
You got a list of overnight field trips in your packet, just an FYI. We've got high school going to all-state choir. I think we've got one member going. Fort Lauderdale Middle School in Philadelphia is going to New York. North Middle School is going to Washington. Everybody, softball team is going to Cal Ripken in South Carolina. And the P3 club will be going to the University of Tennessee Martin in early June. So.
Do you have any estimate as to how many students or these students?
Loudon High School, I think they've got one student going. For Loudon, Philadelphia, I would say they've probably got 50 or 60 going. North, probably, I'm not sure about more, I would imagine around 100. Greenback School, 15 softball players. P3 club, I would imagine less than 10.
Okay.
How many spots for school board members?
I think that we can make a spot for your chaperone. We'd love to have you.
I'm glad
If you're
glad they're able
responsible,
to go.
if you're responsible for a bunch of middle school kids.
I think I can do it. Any other business deemed necessary by the board of director of schools?
Mr. Chairman, board members, we've got two amazing bus drivers, bus owners in our audience, Mr. Tim Davis and Mr. Mark Costner. If one or both of you guys want to come up and join us at the table, I would appreciate that.
Well, both of us will fit.
We take whichever one you want.
Can I get a cupcake too?
Here.
Come on.
As-
Here's the deal. I've been doing this ever since my dad let me into the business. I'm a third generation bus owner. Papa started in 1959, give you a little bit of background. I've been here, lived here all my life. Part-time as a bus owner, part-time, I growed up in a hosiery mill. People didn't realize I've done both there for a while, just to make ends meet first, to get the business started for myself and my family. In the past, we've had a 4-year contract, basically. We didn't know what we'd be getting every year of that contract. Sometimes it's 2.5%, sometimes it's 3%. We don't go out there to enormous numbers. Ask for 10% or something like that, something ridiculous. I can speak for all the contractors. We've got 2 new ones in the system. Very happy to be in Loudon, like myself. We're honored to be here. Feel like they've been taken care of, but we want to keep them here too. We're happy to have them. They do a successful job. So I'm speaking for all the regular ed bus contractors, saying that we'd like to change, this year is the year for contract talks. Kind of let it slide, we kind of get down to nitty gritty at the end of the time, but I feel like it's necessary to bring it up now before last minute like we normally talk. But I'd like to see the board change the contract in order so we know what we're gonna get in the following year, like I say, every year. In the past 8 years, we've renegotiated our raise. We could go backwards, and we've always had an increase. But we've always had to wait till the last minute to know what our increase is, to figure out what we can do with that money. Our bus drivers don't make enough. It's up to me what I pay my bus drivers is. But I talked to the other contractors in the surrounding area, and I feel like we do a fair wage with them. Hard to find bus drivers. But all that to say this, we'd like to see the contract change to where we'll know in 4 years what we'll be making versus this year.
And let me jump in, Mark. I love our bus drivers. They do a great job, and I'll tell you, it's more challenging to be a bus driver and a bus owner than what it's ever been. The board in the years past, I think, has tried to do the best we can to take care of them. During the last 8 years, we had obviously have 2 4-year contracts, and we wait to the budget cycle to determine what kind of raise we're going to give bus drivers. Sometimes it's, and we look at it 2 different ways. You got to be a rocket scientist or a BCS kind of a brain in order to fully understand how that works. Somebody like me that can understand that math. It's really hard for me. I have to have Don sit down with me and talk a long time about how that works out, whether or not you're going to give raises to seat pay or mileage pay or both, or meet somewhere in the middle and do something different. With that being said, before that, there was a 4-year contract that's, I think, called for 4% every year.
It averaged about 3%.
I can't remember what the total
Around 3% on seat pay and mileage pay.
But you knew what you got. Year 1, 2, 3, and 4 is compared to the last 2 4-year cycles. We've said, well, we'll wait and see what we can give teachers, and then try to see if we can't match something like that, in some form or fashion. So again, I want to lobby and advocate for bus drivers and bus owners specifically. These guys are champions, and we love to have them, and we want to keep them happy because it's harder to transport kids than it's ever been. You guys are awesome at what you do.
Amen to that, because there's many new laws. I mean, more laws coming. And when those laws passed down, the board stepped up. Like 15 and 16, they made us go to commercial tags. We were paying $24 for a tag, and all of a sudden, oh crap, we're paying $270. So the board stepped up. Board of past members, you all stepped up and reimbursed us then. And that's one of the other things in this contract I'd like to get in the contract, saying that you'll continue to reimburse that for each bus. And I talked to Dawn, it was like, for the whole county, it was like $203 a bus. To you all, that don't sound like a whole lot to me, okay? But you're talking, in the past 9 years, my bus that's on a minimum route has increased to pay $28 per bus, 28. That's including my pay, my driver's pay, and the fuel is covered because we got a sliding scale on the fuel. But you average that out, that ain't a whole lot, but it does help. But that's an average of we've had about 1 3/4% over the last 9 years. But there was 2 years there we didn't get mileage pay increase. But we got seat pay increase. Well, if you only increase half of it, that 3% over here goes back to about 1 1/4. Actually, because the guys that drive the longer routes, that mileage pay is more to them than the seat pay. In my case, the seat pay's better for me because I've got the shortest routes. I got him into the business, and he just had to come along. He took the long routes because he was building on 2 routes at the time, and he wanted the longer routes. But I was trying to take care of my employees and try not to put strain on them. But anyways, if we get across the board mileage pay and seat pay, we know what we're budgeted for the next 4 years as a contract. Basically, all I'm asking for is, I've got these things, if you want to pass them out, it's a 3% across the board. The 2 things, how we get paid, and ask the board to keep the reimbursement for our tags, basically, per bus. That's
that's basically all we're asking for. Sure, we may get that. We may talk a 4-year contract and all of a sudden we may get 4% 1 year or whatever. But we'd like to have this in writing where we're guaranteed something, because it comes along to purchase new buses. My dad bought new buses back 86 to 91 throughout his whole life. Whether he had to sell cattle or not. You know, and I got in the business, I said, Dad, if the buses don't pay for themselves, I don't need to be in the business. Since then, everything's kind of stepped up. Me and another young owner at the time, Scott Franks, me and him put together a system to where we upped our pay. Our pay started coming up even with everybody else in the surround. So we're at that level now to where we're kind of compatible with the counties beside of us, but we want to stay there too. We don't want to fall back. And I like to buy new buses. I try to keep a good fleet, but I'll admit I've got the oldest fleet in the whole system. But like I say, I run the shortest routes, and but I'd love to have a brand new bus.
So Mark, you're just asking for an extended contract, is all, really?
Well, we're asking for another 4-year contract.
Yeah.
It's up this year. It's not like extended 2 years. I'm just pleading the case for the next 4 years to be.
I say extended, but I do.
Yeah, right. I mean, you could, you can fire us now, we won't be having to do nothing in June or July, you know. But I'm just saying, I got faith in the board, they're gonna reassign us. I don't think we've done something stupid to get us out, but this is what we would like to see going forward. And get back to where we were, say, 8 years ago in the contract, read out, is basically what I'm asking for. And I appreciate the job. I've been blessed here in Loudon County. Like I told Jason several times, I don't want to go to Monroe County. I ain't going over here. I'm a Loudonian. I'm a proud Loudonian.
We're blessed to have you.
But,
let me ask you a question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No
but
problem.
It would help. Do we know are the other counties surrounding us do this?
yes, they do. Blount County's in the process now. They're a little behind us. And they're proposing a 10%
10%.
increase this year, just to step up their game to where they fell back. Knox County's above us. Monroe County's a little behind us. So I don't complain about our current contract. I talked to another contractor over the special ed bus and said, Beefy, I can never ask for raises. I said, well, you never had to, because we always went to bat for you all too. But they got the same raise as I have. $28 a bus. I got all the paperwork there to compare our buses to his buses, and it comes down to $28 a day.
The reason I was asking is it's not an unreasonable request, is what I was getting at.
Right.
It's a normal.
Yes, it's just basic, and, you know, that's what I like to see happen, or really like to see happen. Like I said, we're not asking for some blow-up number. I mean, we're happy with what we're doing, but, most of the times whenever I get a raise, like that $28, my driver's pay has increased $18 of that a day, over that time. So what have I actually put in my pocket, as far as to cover new buses and new equipment and whatnot? So that's what I have to look at. And I got Saints as drivers. I lost one this last fall break, and I've been driving around ever since. And I never thought she'd ever step away, but she did. She thought she was going to drive till she was 6 foot under like Dad. But she found a fella and moved off the look. I've been driving there since, which is a blessing. She thought she was going, I was going to be mad at her. I said, I'm proud of it. I'm happy. She's like a sister to me. That's the way all my bus drivers are. And same if I've had people on the North City side.
If we probably give you a raise, will you be quiet?
I'm never been quiet. But, you know, we're kind of a tight-knit group. I mean, if somebody's hurting over there, they'll call me. I mean, and I'll try to work things out for them. I'm kind of a mediator for them. But that's all I got. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer.
I don't think it'd be inappropriate for us to do that. I mean, we do that
Not
with
at all.
other contracts as well, just custodial contracts. I mean, they get, it's automatic, they get a percentage every year. I don't think it'd be inappropriate for us to put that together for you guys.
It's basically a cost of living raise. I feel like.
I would agree.
Yeah, it's nothing immediate.
And the thing about this, we put in place, it helps cover us, is that's mileage, it's based on fuel. Hey, if fuel's $4 a gallon, it costs the county more money, it costs me more. I'm not making as much, but when it's down here where it's at now, it's saved the county thousands of dollars the last 2 years. It saved me, it saved the county. So it's something that's uncontrollable by us, but that's probably the best thing we've ever done as far as the sliding scale. Appreciate your time. I'll probably come at the wrong time on this. Supposed to be here at 4:30. I don't know. I was finishing up my bus route at that time, to be honest.
You're perfect.
When you're good looking, smart, you can come when you want to. So.
Yeah. Don't worry about, you know.
Thanks, Nate.
Thank you very much.
Let's get it going.
Yeah, we should probably have that budget discussion.
See, look at those radios we talking about too.
All right. Next on the agenda is the recognition of visitors.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got a couple of questions and just some clarification on some things that transpired last week. It's my understanding that there's been a new MOU sent to Loudon County Sheriff's Department, reference our sheriff, or SRO.
I'm not sure that we've got a current signed MOU, so yes, that's correct.
We have I think we have a memorandum I think we do have something. Okay, well, and also, I was told that now our SROs are now allowed to go back and review recorded, video.
Who told you that?
Well, I'm asking you.
I'm telling you, that's not the truth. I'm curious who
Okay,
shared that.
so tell me the process.
So that they can see it live, and if they want to view a recorded episode because of something that's appropriate for them to view according to school policy, then they've got the opportunity to do that with their school principals. So there's
Okay.
no, to my knowledge,
And that's in policy? Have we always followed that policy?
it does not say that specifically in policy, what they have in regard to right to.
So
the
you
campus.
changed policy?
I have not changed policy. This is not.
You've not changed policy?
That's not a school policy that we have in regard to our video cameras. I have changed procedures based upon consultation with council and in regard to the fact that we're concerned that we have got some folks that may be inappropriately sharing information in regard to student confidentiality.
Okay, I understand that. There could always be an issue with some of that, but here's the thing is, my concern is that we spend a lot of money on these video cameras.
They've got access to them.
And, well, they don't have it. What happens if somebody comes in there and there's a situation where a kid got a gun, they don't know who the kid is, well, the SR can't back it up and see who's in that? But instead, he's gotta go find the principal or you, because I was told that you were, that he was the principal and you had okay.
Who shared it with you?
Well, it don't matter who shared it, I'm just asking you a
What I'm
question.
saying to you is we've got a lot of people that are spreading a lot of
Okay,
rumors.
and that's why I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay, so, it used to be that there was no issue with the SROs viewing recorded videos.
I don't have an issue now if they do it with
Okay.
principal,
Okay.
until we get an
Well-
MOU in place.
Well, and here's another thing, and so, did you lock out our SROs from looking at recorded, video? Simple question. Or did you have it done?
Yes, absolutely, I did.
So you have basically changed the policy without the board.
We don't have a policy that
No,
says that they can use
practice
the camera.
makes policy, Jason.
No, it
We
does
all
not.
know that, yes, any kind of
There's different
legal,
policy and
any kind of
procedure.
legal ramification, if it goes back to anything you look at, if it's the rule that that's how they do it day in and day out, hey, that's policy, whether it's written or not.
I disagree.
Well,
Respectfully.
and I'm just saying that, this is crazy that we would take our
They have
SROs.
access. There's no request that's been asked for that has not been provided. They've had every opportunity they've
I
asked for.
don't think they
got it.
have to go through that. They shouldn't have to go through
Well, hold on, Scotty, you got a good point here. I think we've got an opportunity to take a look at it, and we need to, as you know, and I'm not trying to take anybody's side here, but I do know that we need to work on an MOU and clear this stuff up. I
Right,
agree.
there needs to be an MOU, but we have to okay that.
We do, and I think where you're going at, hold on.
Hold on. Did you see, has there been a MOU, a draft of an MOU sent to the sheriff's department?
I asked our attorney and sheriff's department attorney to speak about the MOU jointly.
That's not what I asked. Did our attorney send a copy of an MOU to the sheriff's department?
I'm not sure what he's done. I asked him to get with Bob Bowman to speak very specifically about a new MOU. That's a state template that makes sense to move forward with.
I could understand go by state template, but what I'm getting at is that you have changed the policy.
That's not a policy, Mr. Newman.
You have changed the practice.
Which policy number specifically?
Well, I'll have to look. I'm just
Okay,
saying.
well,
Hold on a minute. Well, hold on, I'm listening to you enough, I want you to listen to me.
I am, you're repeating the same thing over and
No,
over.
I just wanna know, I mean, why now? Why are we now going in there and changing, how we do things?
Let me respond by asking a different question. Do you think it's appropriate, like I mentioned a minute ago, that we should allow students' confidentiality to be breached and to be shared in public? Because I told you just a minute ago, I felt like we had an issue with that needed to be addressed.
No, I don't agree with that.
Then if you don't think that that's appropriate, then we need to address it. And so that's what I do.
Yeah,
I've tried to
we do need to
put,
address it.
that's right, I've tried to put the school board in a position not to be sued because of, we put ourselves in a position.
All right,
that
hold on.
But here's the thing, is that, that's good, that's all well and fine, okay? But you need to tell, I mean, you just don't go doing this thing without letting it wasn't even put on our agenda. Why would we not bring this up and go, hey, this is what we're doing? I'm in talks with the SRO, or with the sheriff's department, we're gonna change the way we do our SROs.
They've got a right to view now. They can go back with their principals and view it. And if they agree to the new MOU and they appreciate the fact that FERPA is appropriate, then they can have access to what they used to in years past.
I think what Scott's saying is that we need to clear up this MOU thing as soon as possible. And I think it sounds like there's some gray areas in perceived policy, and he's got an argument. So, and I believe you were trying to do what's right, but we need to be on board with what we're
We
doing.
need MOU, but we need policy.
Yes, we need policy and an MOU, Scott, and I wasn't trying to
I think also.
speak, I mean, you're right, I
As
mean,
long
it's
as
gotta be
we've had
clear.
SROs, and as long as we've had video cameras, the SROs have been able to go back and look.
And I don't see why they can't now, unless there's something I don't know.
That's their
Before
choice.
his son busts.
Hold on.
And then if.
Everybody will get to talk, I guarantee you'll
My
get to talk.
concern is Jason, you lock those guys out. And
No,
nobody,
they've got their access right now. They can look at it right now.
but they have to have a principal or you, or both.
I've not got anything to do with it.
They have to have a principal.
That's correct.
But that's not what the practice has been said.
Well, that's why we need to get a policy.
But that's not in the practice. That's where my concern is.
My concern is that you are not of the mind, I'm not hearing you say that you want to protect kids' rights, Scotty, because that's what I'm saying I want to do. Are we?
I want to protect their safety and their rights.
We'll work this issue out. It's clear that we need an MOU and a policy. I try not to keep an argument here, but
I'm not
you're
trying to
right.
argue, my point is that, and I've said it 100 times, I know, you can't go changing policies and procedures without this board knowing.
We'll work on solidifying a policy and an MOU. I don't think that's an unreasonable.
I think part of the beef is, I'm not thinking the same as Scotty, what Scotty said is we don't know that was going on.
That's right. I mean, I understand what he's saying. I mean, if it's.
We had an MOU with the sheriff's department that is out of date. And so
Yes.
I think it's important that we look at that one and then develop a new one that's appropriate. We also know that in the incidences that have happened over the last several months, there have been several FERPA violations of dealing with or circling around some of the recordings that were made, and who should have access to those. They're obvious FERPA violations, which we are, as a school board, liable for if we don't correct them. So I think a new MOU needs to look at that particular issue.
Let me add just a thought, is we have school resource officers that are there to protect our kids and enforce any laws now, if we have administrators and I'm not saying this has happened, but we have administrators and we have principals that are out here that are skirting the SROs when there's an issue, or the SRO comes to them with an issue and they decide not to do anything, that right there
We can't
is
have that.
interference.
We
is
can't
what's
have
that.
that. That's
I'm just saying, that's a criminal charge. That's not civil, that's a criminal charge.
Are you accusing our principals of being
No,
inappropriate?
come on, no, he's just pointing out that. He's not, he didn't know, he's just saying that if it happens, it's all part of what, we've gotta get a policy together and work on it. He's right, is what he's saying.
You know, Scotty, I sent an email on March the 30th that says, "Dear Board, I hope that you start the week off well. Chris McCarty will be meeting with Bob Owen and Sheriff's Department to discuss an updated MOU and so forth and so on, several different other points."
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
told
sure
you,
understand.
I told you, about a month ago when all this crap went on, and I told Kayla that I'm not getting emails. On that SLE Newman, that charter, I'm not getting emails. Send all my emails to snewman@loudonpd.org, and I'm not getting anything.
Let's get that fixed immediately, please. And I'm sorry, Scotty, I did not know that.
I think the last MOU we had was signed with Dr. Fest.
That's correct.
We've gotta get it, Scott, listen, he's right, we've gotta get this fixed.
Well,
And we
I
gotta
mean, you
get
got the
policy.
guy just come in here and won't do this training, and the SROs, if they're not being able to look at this stuff, I mean, I get what you're saying. They need access to look at it, but they don't need access to send it and deliver it to whoever they want to.
Well, then that's something
We
that
can figure that out.
If that happens.
We can iron that out.
If that happens, that's when the administrator goes to the sheriff and goes, hey,
Yeah.
you got an SRO that's sharing these videos.
Scotty,
Oh, I agree.
I need you to be involved in this MOU discussion, if you would. I mean, I know you're,
I like the whole board.
well, we will be fine, but I mean, Scotty knows.
So you did the MOU, and then we gotta put teeth in that policy though too.
Well, that's what I meant, as far as the policy, I mean, that's something.
Just point of clarification, Mr. Chairman. I think I hear Mr. Newman say that if SRO is inappropriately sharing videos, they should not be allowed to be involved in our system.
That should be up to what the sheriff, their sheriff, Tim Guyder's employees, or whatever sheriff Tim Guyder wants. Wherever he wants to put them, he can put them.
No, I'm
That's
not
up to
saying,
him.
it shouldn't be.
Well, let's-
Sheriff's Department, I'm just-
Again, we need to work on policy, we need to work on MOU, you're right on the money, Scott.
We shouldn't be picking and choosing SROs. That's something that the sheriff should be doing. Because if he was gonna do that, what happens if the SRO don't like the principal?
Just talking about making sure kids' rights are protected.
Yeah, that's right, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about all kids being protected.
Scotty, you got it?
I will.
Okay. Everybody's gonna get a chance to talk. I'll give you as much as reasonable time as I possibly can. I have every intention of letting everyone talk. I'm sorry, Brian.
Are you gonna recognize visitors now? I have something before we do.
I am so sorry, sir. I thought we were done. I
No,
thought
no,
I.
that's fine. There was some information that was shared with us about, a teacher at Loudon Elementary School that's currently suspended. There was some discussion about that, from our attorney's office to us. And my question is that going to be brought to the board for the board to consider? What's your plan with that?
I'm not prepared to speak about that tonight. I'll make sure to have that information to you guys by next Thursday.
Well, I have something to say just because of our last meeting in March. And I guess it's twofold, and I was hoping to never speak of this, but it is what it is. I think that maybe some things were aimed at me in our last meeting, and I hate that, but I think they were. I think the comment was, axe the grind, and they
That's
look,
me.
yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So, I figured that maybe I'll just clear the air because that's kind of how I like to operate and not kind of behind closed doors. So with that said, I just want to tell you, because I've kind of heard some rumors floating among board members about things that have been said in reference to me and my employment in Loudon County. So I'm going to clear the air so that there's no confusion. I was brought to Loudon County in 1999 by Edward Headley. I worked at Sticky. I taught there for 14 years and loved it. That was my school, that was my home, that's where my kids went. In 2012, Mr. Vance and I had a discussion. No one needs to know that discussion, but we had a disagreement about something. And I guess my philosophy of a team is that you work as a team. You know, I've got a partner now, and we work as a team. That's how that works. So I considered us a team, and I felt that I was part of the team. But anyway, we had a discussion. There was a disagreement, which is okay. You agree to disagree. No problem. In 2013, I was revisited by Mr. Vance, and he came to me and slid a piece of paper across my desk with Mike Guerin and said that I would no longer be the assistant principal. and that I needed to choose a place to go. And so I did. I chose Philadelphia. Maria's not here, but I chose Philadelphia because that's where my kid was at the time. That was convenient, it was close. Mr. Vance didn't know it, but Maria and I had already been talking. I love Mr. Gentry, but eventually he would retire, and I was hoping to be her assistant principal. So I called her, I told Mr. Vance that I would get with her and ask her if I could come there. His comment to me was that he didn't know if she would want me. And I was like, I don't think that'd be a problem, because he didn't know the conversations that we had had. And so I called her. She was happy for me to come. I was excited to go, and that was that. He came back to me the following day with Mr. Guerin to ask me, if I had made the contact. I had, and I told him that it was good, and the job description changed. So now, instead of being a PE teacher, I was gonna have to be a coach. Now, I played ball. Beefy and I are pretty close to age. Not a lot, he's older than I am, not a lot. No, but we're pretty close to age. But I played ball, but I'm by no means a coach. And you've heard those people yell from the stands, "You're horrible." I would have had to agree, because I would say, "You're right, please tell them." But anyway, I'm not a coach, and I couldn't do that. That wouldn't be fair to kids, and that's what I'm about. So I rejected. I said, I can't be a coach. I just can't. I offered up someone to be a coach. I didn't tell him who it was, but I knew someone that would be happy to take on that charge, and I could cheer them on, and they would win. With me, they would lose. So it was what it was. That was not an option. For me, he told me they had to be a staff member, a school member staff. So I chose to go where Mr. McIntosh was at Eaton. So I left in 2013. I never made it to Mr. McIntosh. The only thing I have requested from him was, I think that I had a good chair. I said, make sure I have a good chair sitting whenever I sit down. But other than that, that was kind of it. And I left in 2013 and went to Athens City. And I would have been there, but they cut the librarians. They didn't have to have certified librarians because of their numbers. And I landed in Loudon County. And by no means do I have anything wrong on Mr. Vance. I must say that at this point in my life, I'm probably happier than I've ever been. Now, I love Mr. McIntosh, and we were a great team, but I'm happy, and I think that God does things for the better of those that serve Him. So I'm in a good spot. People have asked me if I would come back. I've said no. Not that I don't love Loudon County, but I can serve the students as a board member just as well as I can as a teacher or administrator. So I wanted to clear the air so that you knew my story. And the other thing I think that was mentioned that I think that needs to be cleared, and you do what you wish to do, but I do have a family member that works in Loudon County School. I left Loudon County in 2013. She was hired in 2014. She's here. I love her dearly, but by no means does she interact with how I vote on a board issue. And as a matter of fact, I don't share things with her because I don't want to put her in that spot that puts her in a bad spot. So we don't talk about school stuff, we talk about family stuff. So I just wanted to clear the air so that you would know where I'm coming from, so that there wouldn't be any confusion on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak before I move on? Okay. Again, I'm going to let everybody speak. Ask you to try and be reasonable with your time. I'm not going to put a limit on it, but we're 7:30, and and I hear you, Mr. Mears. I just wanted to make sure. I got to give this spiel here. I will cut someone off if they start talking about an individual child. We're not going to get into legal issues there, and yes, I may be a little forceful. That's why. Okay, so don't take offense to it. As long as you stay off individual topics, I'll let you talk. This is your workshop, so I'm going to let you talk. And let me just